Ready. I'm ready. Mm-hmm.
The views expressed on this program are not those of intellectualradio.com, its subsidiaries, or sponsors. Encouraging, educating, and empowering you into action. This is Warriors Talk with your host, Lady ReShelle.
Hello. Welcome to Warriors Talk with author and founder Lady ReShelle, where we move away from awareness towards action. It's Health and Wellness Monday, and our topic for today is managing breast cancer as a single parent. We are live on Intellectual Radio. We just heard from the Drive at 5 with Roman. Keep it locked right here on Intellectual Radio and allow us to feed your brain. On the last episode of Warriors Talk, Dr. Michelle and I talked about cervical cancer, what every woman needs to know. Head on over to YouTube, type in Intellectual Radio, and stay connected for any episodes you may have missed. The quote of the day is, faith is taking the first step, even when you don't see the whole staircase. And that quote is by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And we are celebrating African American History Month today. And we're celebrating Congresswoman Lauren Underwood. She serves as Illinois' 14th Congressional District, and she was sworn into the 116th U.S. Congress on January the 3rd, 2019. Congressman Underwood is the first woman, the first person of color, and the first millennial to represent her community in Congress. She's also the youngest African American woman to serve in the United States House of Representatives. She serves on the House Committee of Veterans Affairs and the House Committee of Appropriations. She co-founded and co-chairs the Black Maternal Health Caucus, which elevates the Black maternal health crisis within Congress and advances policy solutions to improve maternal health and outcomes to end disparities. She also serves on the House Democratic Steering and Policy Committee. She has taught future nurse practitioners through Georgetown University in an online master's program. And she graduated from the University of Michigan and Johns Hopkins University. She was a high school graduate of Neuqua Valley High School, and she's a lifelong Girl Scout, and she resides in Naperville, Illinois. And today, we celebrate her. If you are tuned in on any form of social media, please like the show, share the show, invite someone else in on the show that you feel may benefit from this valuable information. As parents, we try to protect our children from harm and from any type of pain. We don't want to see them hurt, and receiving a cancer diagnosis can be overwhelming for us, but it also can turn your household upside down. So today we're going to talk about managing breast cancer as a single parent. Breast cancer is the most common cancer for women in the United States, except for skin cancer, and it accounts for 30%, which is 1 in 3 of all new female cancers each year. And there's a study that went out that they tested or they polled individuals with breast cancer that were married and unmarried. And it was saying that they had a significant high risk of dying from cancer for those who were unmarried than for those who were married. And so the topic today, talking about single parents and breast cancer, can be a very frightening situation, especially when you think about you don't have that other parent that's actually present in the household with you to be there to kind of cover the kids while you're going through your cancer diagnosis. So when you get that diagnosis of cancer, when you hear those 4 words, you have breast cancer, it can be devastating. Trust me. I know firsthand that it can be devastating. So many different things are going to run through your mind that has the potential to paralyze you from moving forward, from processing that information. And this, what you do at the beginning can be very crucial to your survival. Finding out that you have this devastating disease is life altering. And as a parent, we're so used to, especially moms, we're so used to just taking care of everybody else and sometimes pushing ourselves to the side to where, we will do things for us last. And when you get a devastating news like breast cancer, then running through your mind is like, oh my God, you think about all of the things that you do on a daily basis. And you're like, who's going to do all of these things? Who's going to take care of my babies when I can't get up to do it? You really don't even trust anybody else to do it, because there's a saying, if you want something done, you do it yourself. And we take on a lot of hats, but when you get that diagnosis, it kind of stops you in your tracks, right? So you don't have a choice but to, you should sit down and think about what your plan of action is going to be. And I always say that you have to process the diagnosis first yourself before you can tell anybody else, before you can figure out what it is that you want to do. You have to sit down and process what the doctor told you so that you know what course of action that you have to take, right? You have to gather your weapons of mass destruction so that you know how to fight this cancer. So getting that diagnosis, it can be very devastating. There are some unique challenges that individuals face when they are diagnosed with breast cancer. As a single parent, you think about you dropping your kids off at school, you're picking them up from after school activities. They're counting on you to, when they go on trips, to buy certain things, and everything is depending on you. And sometimes your one salary. And just think about it, if you're down, then where's it going to come from? If you don't have any other outside income, then that could be a stressor on you thinking about what are my kids going to go through. And just remember, no two diagnoses are alike, because a lot of times, sometimes we like to compare, even if it's the same diagnosis, even if it's the same size tumor, it could be, you could have a different outcome. So one thing that we can't do is when we're diagnosed, is compare ourselves to anybody else. Your diagnosis is uniquely to you, and we should be treated that way. And I know the doctors don't treat you uniquely. What they do is they say, okay, she has this type of cancer. The tumor was this size, so we're going to give her this treatment. And they're not catering it to you. It's just, that's formality for an individual who have those parameters when it comes to cancer. And we know everybody don't make it. Everybody don't make it through a cancer diagnosis. So you have to look at it like some people may have pre-existing conditions. They may have heart problems. They may have diabetes. They may have high blood pressure. They may have other ailments that are going on that factor into them fighting, which can make it more harder for them to fight. Not that they won't make it, but it just make it tougher for them to fight because they have these other issues going on. So don't compare yourself. Just know that your diagnosis is unique to you, and you should treat it that way. And the doctor should treat it that way when you go to the doctor. It should be, what can you do for me? How can you treat me individually? Not, looking in a textbook and automatically just giving me the medicine that goes along with that. Know that there are immediate consequences of a cancer diagnosis. And one of them is fear, right? As soon as you hear you have a cancer diagnosis, the first thing that went through my mind was, I'm going to die. Why? Because 3 years prior to that, my sister at the age of 52 died. She found her lump in April. By December, we were burying her, and she left behind 4 kids. So what made me any different when I got the news? I just knew that was the same fate for me. So the consequences could be depression. As soon as you hear it, depression. Why? Because everything that I've heard about cancer up until the point that I had cancer was death. They'll say, oh yeah, so-and-so had cancer. And then the next thing you hear, oh yeah, and then they died. Like, it was always for me associated with death. And so as soon as I heard that, I said, okay, this is what's happening. This is what's going to go on. So you have to figure out how to move past that. Again, because no two diagnoses are the same. We do know they call us survivors for a reason, right? Because we're still here. Whether you are still doing treatment, because we do have survivors that, or some people call them thrivers, that are actively in treatment and they'll be in treatment for the rest of their lives. And then you have those survivors that I don't like to say remission, no evidence of disease at the moment with cancer being present in their body. So us being here, you're a survivor. So I look at it like I didn't do anything special to be here, right? I went through the same chemo, the same radiation, the same surgery as the others have went through. I don't know. God had still had work for me to do, so I'm still here. Hey, Angela. Hey, Lisa. Thanks for tuning in. Angela says, your whole life changes as a single parent. When you are diagnosed with cancer, the very first thing comes to mind is your children. You're like, if I die, who are going to raise my children? And you think about their life without you, and you're like, oh, this is going to be a hard life because you're not there to cover them. And you don't know what's going to happen. You can make your wishes and say, this is what I want, but the circumstances may change. And at the time, when I was diagnosed, my mom and my father were still living. So automatically I'm thinking my babies can go with my parents, and I know that they'll be taken care of. That may not be the case for everybody. You may not have that option to where you can do that. So it's a scary feeling to think about. You won't be here for graduations, proms, birthdays. I just took my daughter, my 17-year-old, to get her driver's license. That I was like excited for her and excited just to be here to witness it. So there's some things you think about, like as you're fighting, as you're going through that chemo, and those toxins are being pumped in your veins, you're thinking about, I have the potential to not be here. Lisa says it's very scary. It's very scary. I remember my first chemo, just sitting there, and I don't know, for some reason I felt like I was gonna feel the chemo like killing my cells. So I just sat there like really quiet, just trying to see if I can feel this chemo in action. Of course I couldn't. It kind of just sneaks up on you in a couple of days, and all of a sudden you feel like you've been hit by a Mack truck. And that's how I felt the whole time I was going through the chemo, and that's where you have that lack of energy to where you can't sleep it off. You just have to deal with it. You have to deal with it. So it could be a very scary, a frightening thing to think about, the possibility of you not being here because of this cancer diagnosis and all of the things that you miss. So you learn to excuse me, you learn to appreciate the little things that you go through with your kids, and you start to pay more attention, because sometimes you're busy as a parent, and sometimes you're like, okay, go sit down, because you're doing stuff, and so you start to cherish those little moments that you have with them, and you stop taking stuff for granted, and you stop doing things that are unnecessary for you to do. Like, I did a lot of ripping, running, just doing stuff that had nothing to do with nothing. And the cancer came, it set me down. Okay? Set me down. A lot of things I just had to drop. I just said, you know what? My health is more important. I need to concentrate on my health, everything else. And I just dropped it cold turkey and just concentrate. I just concentrated on my health and my kids, because I felt like if I wasn't going to be here, the only thing that really mattered to me was them. making sure that I was making memories with them, making sure that they would remember you when you're not there. So, they became my, I don't want to say my world, but they were even more important when I was going through. Lisa says also emotional. Absolutely. I can remember sitting in my living room just in the dark. I would drop the kids off at school and then I would come home and just cry the whole time. Just in the dark, just crying the whole time. Like a couple of days after I got diagnosed, because I was trying to process like this cannot be real. Like this is really happening. So a lot of times I would just go in my room and shut the door and just cry my eyes out. I don't know. I had to just get it out. That was just my way of, I guess, releasing it versus just keeping it all in. Because, as women, we try to be, oh, she the strong one. You try to be, man. I had to. Now, if you saw me in public, you probably would never see a tear. But behind those closed doors, man, I was crying every day. Every day. It was healing for me. It was a way for me to heal, to flush it out, to get it out, versus allowing the stress to accelerate the cancer cells. So it can be healing, and I encourage anybody to don't keep it in. Let it go. If you're depressed, let it go. Talk to somebody. People are become emotionally unstable when you're going through a cancer diagnosis, right? You may do things that are impulsive, right? Self-destructive. It causes anxiety. You may become irritable or short with people to where you don't even want to be bothered with people. Now you done shut down. You're in isolation. You have difficulty maintaining relationships because you are emotionally unstable. You are no longer in control of your life. You are, but you're looking at the cancer like the cancer is in control. And the cancer is you're the puppet, and the cancer is pulling the strings. And then there's that fear of uncertainty. You don't know. You don't know if this chemo is going to work. You don't know if this radiation is going to work. You don't know when they go inside of your body and did they get all the cancer? They could say that they did. Oh yeah, we got it all. And we've heard stories about a couple of months later, they come into the person and say, oh, we didn't. And now it done spread it to your lungs and your brains. All that stuff, it be in the back of your mind. It plays on your psyche. It's so easy to fall into a deep depression with a diagnosis like this. It's so easy. Having a cancer diagnosis also affects you physically. And these are the things that people can see. You see people lose their hair. You see people lose weight. You've heard of them losing body parts. I can remember losing my fingernails. It got to a point where I could not even do my daughter's hair because of the chemo. It, made the fingernails fall off. So they were really sensitive. I would have to wear, like if I was cleaning up around the house, I would wear these thick plastic gloves on my hands so that I wouldn't lose a nail while I'm cleaning, or the cleaning solution would get in my nails. And the same thing for your toenails. And I remember complaining to my doctor, like, oh my God, like this is horrible. Like, do you see my hands? At first, the nail turned black. They turn black because, they turn black because they're getting ready to fall off. So they would turn black, and then they would, I don't want to gross you out, but they would raise up because they would be infected. And I remember complaining to her, like, this is horrible. Like, I'm going through my skin had turned so dark. I looked like a little chocolate bunny. Like, it was so dark from the chemo. And I was complaining to my oncologist, like, what's going on with my body? Like, what is this medicine doing to me? Like, all these things are happening. And she was like, it's cosmetic. It will come back. Your hair will come back, your nails will come back, like all these things will come back. So she was like, that means the medicine is doing what it's supposed to do. Unfortunately, it wipes out bad cells and good cells. So now, you know, that's why they tell you don't be around people with a cold, because you got to watch your white blood count, because you can easily get an infection. So a lot of times you see people going through cancer, they may have a mask because they don't want to get sick. That would aggravate their situation and make it worse. And during all of that, I still worked. It was so crazy. I don't know. It had to be God, because I know it wasn't me. But I still worked. I just took off every Friday for my chemo so that I would have Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to kind of recuperate. But I still work. And the funny thing is, my only person that knew I was going through cancer was my supervisor and the immediate, like his supervisor, because the rest of the people didn't have to know. It wasn't really their business. And they was like, do you want them to know? I was like, no. If I want to tell them, I'll tell them on my own, but that's not your job to tell them. And they only knew when I went out for surgery. I was out for surgery for like, I think I was out 8 weeks for surgery. And that's how they knew. They were like, okay, what's going on? Why is she out for surgery? And then when I came back, my supervisor was like, okay, they found out that you were out for breast cancer, and they want to give you like a welcome back party and wear pink. And said, okay. I was like, that's fine. That's fine. But I didn't want to be at work and people bothering me and just, oh, are you okay? And looking at me with pity. And I didn't want that. I didn't want that. So, and at work, I was a private person anyway. So I didn't want that. And when people are going through a cancer diagnosis, sometimes people will make you feel that way. And even you could be like 10 years out. As soon as they see you, they be like, hey, you all right? I'm good. Are you all right? Like, some people look at you like it's a weakness. Some people look at you like you've done something to deserve it, and you're just paying for something that you did. Brenda said, that's good. Keep moving. She has a co-worker now. Never miss a day except for chemo, like you said. Yeah, people are still functioning. They push through even though their bodies may be going through. I'm telling you. And my job was really, they did not bother me. They did not hassle me like they didn't, which was good for me, because some people may lose their jobs. You may lose your job going through cancer. It's not guaranteed that you're going to keep it, because you have to take time off work. You have to take time off work to do certain things. And I'm going to skip over to financial wellness. You have to take time off work because you're tired. Your body is fatigued. And again, this is a fatigue that you cannot sleep off, right? You can't sleep this fatigue off. It will wear off once that chemo gets out of your body. You have so many doctor's appointments, you have so many copays. Some people have more than one surgery. You have prescriptions. And then some people just may not be able to work. Some people may have to cut their hours down to part-time. And if you had money saved, your savings are probably going to be dwindling because you're using it because your hours are not like they were before at work. So that means that things around the house has to change. That means the food may not be as nutritious as it was, because you don't have the money to do it. You have to choose between food or getting your prescription that you need. You have to choose between quality food or paying a bill. keeping your lights on. And for me, for my three little ones, I didn't want them to know what I was going through. They was too young to understand. My youngest was 18 months when I was diagnosed, right? So they was too young to really, so 18 months, 4 and 6, they was young. They really didn't understand what it was. I might have just, I know the 18-month-old did not, and you can explain it to them in their language, but I just chose not to tell the little ones because I didn't want them to worry. I didn't want them to see me with a bald head looking sick because I didn't want that to be a memory in their minds. So my three little ones never saw me with a bald head, never. I would come home and I would change into my scarf and put my scarf on. They never saw the bald head. One of my daughters, she was like, I think she kind of suspected something because she was like, "Mom, can you take your scarf off? I want to see your hair." And I was like, "What?" And she was like, "I want to see your hair." I was like, "No." I was like, "No, absolutely not." And then I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna have to eventually show these girls my hair." And the only reason why I showed them, by this time my hair had started growing back. So, and I told this story before when I was getting ready to take them to school one day and I couldn't because I didn't have the strength to. I had mustered up all the strength to get in the car, and I could not even turn the key. Like I didn't even have the strength. I was just like, how am I gonna drive them all the way to school, and I don't even have the strength to turn the key. Then I got to come back after I dropped them off. It was exhausting even thinking about it. I was like, oh, I can't take y'all to school. Oh, they was fussing. And I was like, I just told my oldest, my Leah, because my girlfriend gave me a book that explains cancer in their language. So I was hiding the book from them in the car. I didn't want them to see it. I hid it from them. And then when I had that episode, I just told my Leah, it's time to read the book. Just read the book to them. And I just went back in the house and got in the bed. And then they just came in there. It was like apologizing. And then at that point, I showed them my hair. And we got a ruler and we kind of measured how short my hair was. And I was like, just look at mommy's hair. And then every week we'll measure it and see how long, it's gotten. And so and at that point, I was able to bring them in on my cancer journey. But before then, I didn't. My two oldest knew, but they didn't. My Leah was there when the doctor called me on the phone to tell me that my biopsy, came back cancerous. She was right there with me. And my mom was on the other line. Brenda said, what kind of support did you need? Me individually, as far as support, I pulled my mom and my daughter in to help me with the girls. Because like I said, I wasn't able to do their hair because of my nails. And a lot of they were in tumbling, they were in dance, and so I had to go and take them. And trust me, just sitting there waiting for them to get out of class, I didn't have the strength. A lot of times I was like, "Mom, can you take them?" Or sometimes I would just sit there and just bear it. My mom would cook for me, like she would cook. The people from my church cooked, gave me food, groceries. As far as support like that, that's the support I needed. Like help with the girls. As far as my thing was, I wanted things to be normal for them. I didn't want them to think that anything was happening. So I tried to keep everything as normal as possible. So even if I didn't feel like going, if I didn't have the strength to go, I would just go because I wanted, up until I told them. Once I told them, I'm like, okay, mama don't feel like it. But up until I told them, it was like, I gotta push, I gotta go. But for me, like everybody go through chemo different. For me, 90% of the time I had energy. I was, excuse me, every Friday night I would go dancing every Friday night. I'm a househead, so I would go to to this club and I would listen to the house music. And for me, that was so therapeutic. I would just dance the whole time by myself. And it was therapeutic for me to be able to do that. And so that really helped me a lot to just, and a lot of times I would be crying as I'm dancing, like releasing. I was just trying to release these toxins out of my body. And that was very therapeutic for me. And having my mom and my sister. When I went to chemo, I always had somebody at my chemo appointments. My mama went to all of my chemo appointments except for one. But somebody was always with me at my chemo appointments, my surgery, my radiation. Somebody was always there with me. Like I never had to do anything by myself. Even when I went to do my mammogram, because I found my own lump and I went to do my mammogram, my mom was with me when I went to do my mammogram. So I was never by myself she was with me. So, and I know, like, when you find out, you don't really want anybody to know, you like, oh God, because you're trying to deal with it yourself. But that's a mama. It's like, who you would want anybody else to be there, you would want your mom to be there. And so she kind of brought me comfort because my mom is a woman of faith. So, like, I needed her to be there because I probably would have went crazy. So I needed her to be there. Angela, I'm gonna need you not to be writing a whole book. You need to call in if you want to have a whole paragraph to say. You can call in. The number is 708-223-8953. You can call in these long paragraphs. I'm gonna try to read it. Okay. Angela said, in the midst of going through chemotherapy, I had a senior in high school and an 8th grader. I had to get my senior, which is my daughter, on prom, her luncheon, senior night, and getting her ready to go away for college. Girl. My son was in 8th grade. I had to get him ready for high school. In the midst of all of this, I was hospitalized for my chemo treatment for 6 days. Lord Jesus. Only thing that she kept saying to her oncologist was, I need to get home to my children, even though my parents and my siblings was there. Well, you need to get home to your children. And even though you sitting up in here sick yourself, they are the first things on your mind. Again, you want everything to so much appear normal, but you want them to still be able to depend on you. And even though she had her parents and she had her siblings and her friends there to help, there's nothing like your mama and you being there on your own to witness this for yourself. Girl, my hat is off to you, Angela. You did a good job with your children, baby, even though you was going through all of this. Angela says, in all of that, I was let go from my job. Wow. I received unemployment, but God still provided for all 3 of us. Wow, along with my family and friends. I told y'all, people lose their jobs going through. Jobs will let you go. They will let you go. They'll start making it so hard for you. And just sometimes you don't have no choice but to quit. But thank God that God was able to still provide for her and her kids. And this is where we have to not be afraid to ask for help. You have to accept help. And then when you need help, ask for help. Because if your hands are tied and you can't do it and there's no money coming in or it's limited money coming in, then sometimes you have to put your pride to the side and say, I need help. It took so much for me to say, Ma, I need help. And to have my daughter at the time, she was 15. She was operating like a mama because I couldn't do it. A lot of things I couldn't do, she was able to step in and just do it to take care of her sisters. Because my son was over in Korea at the time. Dawn said, I originally thought I had done something wrong, which is why I had been diagnosed. Wow. My 2 oldest sons knew, the youngest didn't. Wow. And this is a normal feeling. I'm telling you. You start replanning your mind, like, oh my God, am I being punished for something? You start apologizing and asking God for forgiveness. Like, what is it? What did I do to deserve something like this? Cancer is a horrible disease. Horrible, horrible disease. Because you deal with a cancer diagnosis and they say, oh yeah, no evidence of disease. But guess what? There's always a chance that that cancer can come back for the rest of your life. And yes, I say, hey, God heal me. He doesn't take back a healing. There's a chance that that cancer can come back. And me dealing with triple negative breast cancer, which is an aggressive form of breast cancer, they have to treat it more aggressively and is more likely to return. And because they really don't have a medicine that really caters to triple negative breast cancer, they just give you everything. And then when you're done with treatment, like some cancers, they may put you on tamoxifen that you're on for like 5 years. You may have other treatment. With the triple negative, you don't. You're just out there. They don't even want you doing scans because they don't want to trigger the cancer to come back. Yeah. All right. I think we lost our place. Where were we? Oh, this one is feeling guilty. There's a lot of guilt that comes with a cancer diagnosis as well. Whether it be, like Don said, you thinking you did something, and even you feeling guilty about, wow, this is what I thought. What did I do to deserve this, to not be here for my kids? Like, I felt like I was doing it to them. Like, wow, how did I allow myself to get cancer? How did I, let me just say this. Breast cancer cannot be prevented. That's why they say early detection, right? Find it early, and the earlier you find it, the better the treatment should work, the more successful the treatment should be, especially if it hasn't spread to any other parts of the body. So there's no prevention when it comes to breast cancer. It's only early detection. And early detection means you already have cancer. It's just what stage do you have it? So the doctors don't even know a lot of times what causes it, right? They say, oh, it may run in your family, but what caused it to run in my family? Like, where did it come from? And they don't know. They'll say, oh, it's environmental, or they don't know. A lot of times they don't know. If they knew, then guess what? We will have some cures out here. We will have a lot of vaccines, right? Out here. People would not be dying. Loved ones would not, children would not be motherless or fatherless. Because not just women that get breast cancer and die, you have men that get breast cancer too. And the father role is just as important as the mother role. The kids need both. They need a balance. All right. I'm going to take a quick break, you guys, because I want to highlight our community spotlight. I'm excited about this one. This one is the cancer support team with the CEO, Karen Hall, and she's also a 2-time survivor. And they offer the Care Bear program, which is comfort bags for individuals that are battling cancer and their caregivers. And she has Crowning Star Wigs program. So if you are a cancer survivor, or if you're someone who suffers from alopecia, then she has free wigs. These wigs are free. And trust me, I've gotten like 3 or 4 of these wigs. They are really nice wigs. She has the virtual support groups for survivors on the first Wednesday of the month and caregivers on the third Wednesday of the month. And then she had purses for a purpose fundraiser. So you purchase a handbag, and the money, the proceeds from that handbag would go towards her being able to do these free programs. So you can go to cancersupportteam.net and get more information. All right, you guys, we are live on Intellectual Radio. You are tuned in to Warriors Talk, and we're talking about managing breast cancer as a single parent. I'm gonna try to get back to some of these comments. I'm assuming that was for Karen. Brenda said, she says, "Oh my God, thanks for sharing." You're welcome, Brenda. You're welcome. Can you say, "Come on, speak"? I'm try to get to y'all comments. Did I read this one, Dawn? She said, "Yes, all of my kids' faces flashed before my eyes the second I was diagnosed." Oh my goodness, you just think about like they innocent. They have nothing to do with whatever is going on. Kenya says, and when they say that, they irritate my soul, that they don't know what's going on, or it may be in your family, or it's environmental because they don't know. Angela said, "Let me just give a praise report. Both of my children finished college." Okay. And both of them have their masters. Wow. One in elementary education and the other one in behavioral health. Come on, Angela. Despite cancer, honey, you were able to push your kids through successfully. You know, cancer doesn't, I always say cancer doesn't, it's not, and it's, I hate to say it because sometimes people would say, no, you shouldn't say that. That's not true. I always say cancer is not a death sentence, but it's an awakening to live your best life. It's an awakening. So if you get a cancer diagnosis, then you should not be living the same. You should not. It should be something different going on in your life. You should not be living the same. You shouldn't. If it doesn't make you sit back and evaluate your life and what's going on in your life and what you're doing, then you haven't learned anything. Like the lesson, trust me, it's a lesson. God, He allowed it, right? He may not have ordained it, but He allowed it. So if He allowed it to happen, then I feel like there's a purpose behind it. You know, and a lot of times on the show we talk about why me. You know, I ask the survivors when they go through their cancer journey, did you have a why me moment? I had that why me moment. I did. All the time I was in my room in the dark crying, I was like, Lord, why me? You got murderers out here. You got people, you know, taking advantage of kids, and you got people stealing. Why they can't get cancer? Why? I had it until I processed it and accepted this was His will because He allowed it. So at that point, I was like, okay, why not me? What lesson is He trying to teach me? Or how is He trying to be glorified through this situation? So I had to look at it that way. How? I'm not going to give glory to the devil. So how can I glorify God in this body, even though they say, oh, you have a cancer diagnosis? How? You have to find ways to do it. When you're thinking about, I thought about like all of the stuff that was on my plate. You have to be able to delegate so that you could take some time for yourself to help heal yourself, to get you, I don't want to say back where you were. We always hear the new normal. To get you to where you're supposed to be, you have to be able to, you know, like a manager. A manager does what? A manager doesn't do all the work themselves, right? No, they delegate. They delegate, they manage, they give it to competent people that they know are going to get the job done so that you could go sit back and relax. So sometimes you have to look at it that way. You can't do everything. You can't. So in that case, delegate it to people who can. And then you sit back and you relax and you heal and you love on your children. You take care of your children. You do things to take care of yourself. Self-care is so important. Learn to say no. Go and get a manicure, a pedicure. Go and get a massage. Go and get your hair done. Take yourself out to dinner. Go and see a play. Do something that is taking care of self. And then set realistic expectations between you and your children. You have to be honest and say, Mommy has cancer. Can Mommy die from cancer? Absolutely. Is Mommy going down with a fight? We're going to fight. We're going to fight. We're going to pray. We're going to ask God to heal Mommy. And we're going to keep living. But you have to be realistic with yourself and everything that's going on with the cancer, from the cancer, because it doesn't just stop when they say you have no evidence of disease. We talked about the aftermath of cancer and how sometimes I had a lady on the show that said 10 years down the line, she started having heart problems from the chemo. So sometimes it don't happen right away. It may not happen until 10 years down the line. Some things may show up and never go away. And you just have to deal with it. So really quickly, here are some actions that you can do to help you maintain or help you manage when you have been diagnosed with cancer. Maintain the relationship with your children, right? Treat them individually, spend time with them individually, and make sure that they know how important they are, right? I take my girls on dates individually. And it's so funny because they get mad when they see me taking the other person, knowing that your turn is coming, but they get upset. They're like, why's she going? You know, take them on dates. I take them out for Valentine's Day. I buy them teddy bears. I buy them candy. I take them out to dinner. I make them dress up. Maintain and build a solid relationship with your children. So when you're no longer here, you know that they're going to be okay. Number 2 is focus on getting through your treatment. Nothing else is more important than you and your healing. Focus on that. Everything else, all this petty stuff, everything that's going on, not your concern. Yes, Kenya, you have lymphedema. Some people may have, I have lymphedema and neuropathy. And a lot of times they don't even tell you that you're going to have these things. They don't say. And you find out from other survivors that you're like, what's going on with this? And they're like, oh, girl, you got lymphedema. Oh, girl, you got neuropathy. And you're like, what? Why the doctors didn't tell me this? It's crazy. Angela, what did I say about writing these paragraphs? Angela said, let me share with you all. Not only am I a cancer survivor, I've also been a caregiver. You sure have. Part-time to 2 of my closest girlfriends that passed away not so long ago. I will do it all over again because it was the grace of God that gave her the strength to be a blessing to her girlfriends and their families. Caregivers play an important role, I'm going to tell you. When you're sick, you want somebody taking care of you that genuinely cares for you. You know, that has a heart to do that type of work. It's not for everybody. It's not for the faint of heart. It's not. And for Angela to have went through what she went through with cancer, and then to have to go through it all over again with these 2 ladies, and then for them to pass, that's a lot. It's a lot. But it was a blessing to be there because I know they needed it. A lot of times we sleep on our caregivers, and we really don't give them the respect and the praise that they need. My mom took care of my dad who passed from cancer and my sister. She were their direct caregivers. I'm like, I stuff she was doing, I was like, I gotta go. I can't, I don't know how. I don't know how. Kenya says she forgot about neuropathy and arthritis. Yes, they don't tell you all of this. They don't tell you these things. You just find out one day and you're trying to figure out what's going on with your body. Brenda said, "Is there where you met Anita at your treatment center?" I did. I met Anita. I first met Anita, and we worked at Rush together. We were both administrative assistants, executive assistants, and so I met her there back when I was like 19, and we did a lot of stuff together when we worked at Rush. And then I saw her at the cancer center one day, and I was like, "Oh my God!" I'm like, "She looks like this person I used to work with." And I called her name, and the way she calls my name it's just so hilarious. And so I was like, wow. And then I heard her laugh. I was like, yeah, that's her. So yeah, that we met up again, and she was a blessing to me. When I started Warriors Talk, she sent me $100 check, and I ended up starting my bank account with it. And it's so funny, when she sent it to me, I didn't cash it. It took me like a month to cash it. She called me like, hello, I sent you that check. Would you please cash that check? I was like, I'm sorry, I'm gonna cash it. I was like, I'm gonna cash it. So yeah, she was definitely a blessing to me. Had a infectious personality, and her laugh was just, oh God, it was hilarious. It was so contagious. So, okay, where was I? I got like a minute or so left. Make sure that you have a support network that you're building up. Like Andrew said, friends, families. It doesn't necessarily have to be family, so don't think it has to be family all the time. Don't stress when family cannot be there. If they don't want to be there, sometimes they're so close to you and they don't want to see you going through what you're going through. And again, don't be afraid to ask for help. You don't have to do this by yourself. You shouldn't do this by yourself. Remember that self care is going to be one of your lifelines. Know your limits, know your new normals, and address it accordingly. We talked about setting realistic expectations for yourself. One of the things I like is journal your cancer journey. Journal pictures, videos, write it down, everything. You never know if you want to may want to write a book. You never know what you want to do with it. Always journal. You're going to be amazed to see how far you have come once you're done with treatment. And then make sure you reach out to others that are going through. Hear some of the success stories, hear what they went through. Like Kenya was saying with the lymphedema and the neuropathy, sometimes you don't know about it until you have talked to someone else. And then allow yourself time to grieve. You're grieving. This is something that's happening to you. Some people lose body parts when you have surgery. You done lost the old you. Sometimes you look in the mirror and you're like, who is that? Allow yourself the proper time to grieve that old you. And then live your best life. Don't allow cancer to stop you from living. Cancer is a wake-up call. And if you don't take heed to it, you're going to lose out on so much. And I gave you the information about the support group. Please reach out to cancersupportteam.net and let them know that you need support for you or caregiver. And then my last one is to remember that you are not alone. You are not alone in this. There's so many survivors out here that are willing to help. So you are not alone. Can you say, you better say that? Ministry got me through. It will do it every single time. Kenya says, unfortunately, I did not journal. That's okay, girl, because you making memories right now. You got a lot of things that are happening to where you are touching a lot of lives. All right, you guys, that's it. The last thing I'll close with is, if you know someone that would be an amazing guest on Warriors Talk, please have them to inbox me on Facebook, or they can email me at warriorstalk1@gmail.com. I am looking for individuals to share their story. And then my closing sponsor is Gloria Dotson with Mary Kay. She's catering to all of your beauty needs from head to toe. You can go to marykay.com/GDOTSON. Make sure you tell her that Warriors Talk sent you. Don't go anywhere. Coming up next is The People Show with Mark Wallace and Charles Thomas. And I will leave you with these words of wisdom. When you have exhausted all possibilities, remember this: you haven't. And that quote is by Thomas Edison. Meet me right here on Intellectual Radio at 6 p.m. next Monday. As always, stay tuned for Warriors Talk. I am the author and founder. Warriors Talk is changing lives, one warrior at a time.
Thank you for listening to this week's edition of Warriors Talk with Lady ReShelle. To find out more about Warriors Talk, follow at Warriors Talk, the number 1, on all social media outlets, and Warriors Talk with Lady ReShelle on YouTube. Please join us next week and every Monday evening at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time on intellectualradio.com for Warriors Talk with Lady ReShelle, where we encourage, educate, and empower you into action.